Do you want to know how to teach your child to stand up against bullies? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting and good communication, as well as how to build strong family bonds all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we are talking about those bullies. In this video, we're going to be talking about what happens in the mind of a child who is getting bullied. And then we're going to talk about successful strategies that you can work on with your child so that bullying does not have to be a problem anymore. Now, right off the bat, we have to talk about the whole concept of bullying because bullying is seen in different ways nowadays. So the historical understanding of bullying is you've got this other person who is maybe, trying to tear you down, saying, oh, you're worthless, you're a loser, you're no good. Maybe they're hitting you, bonking you, stuff like that, okay? Those are very obvious signs of bullying. They're taking something away from you, pushing you down, hurting you physically. That's obvious bullying. We have a situation in our society right now where bullying is starting to be really loosely defined, where people are starting to think that if they don't get something their way, that's bullying. Or if people say something that feels a little hurtful or sad to them, then that's bullying. And I just want to be very, very clear about those things probably aren't bullying. When you sometimes just feel a little owie, like, oh, I don't fit in, that's not bullying. Or when somebody says, well, I don't like when you say that, that's not bullying. Or when somebody says, hey, I was here first before you got here, so you can't butt in front of me. That's not bullying. I think we run the risk of talking about bullying so much with our children and our adolescents that they start labeling everything as bullying just so that they can be the victim and not the oppressor. But in most communication, there doesn't have to be a victim or an oppressor. Let's just keep that clear as we have this discussion about bullying. So what happens in the mind of a person that's getting bullied? So let's say it's real bullying. That's where I'm at right now. Frame of mind, real bullying. Someone is pushing another person around. Well, suddenly inside the mind of the person that's getting pushed around, they are starting to question their ability to keep themselves safe. They're starting to question whether they have enough strength or personal power. They're starting to question their worth. They are feeling vulnerable. There's a lot of anxiety that's happening during that time. Sometimes anger, sometimes there's pushback, but usually when a person is getting bullied, it's because they're an easy target. Maybe they're trying to make other people happy. And that's another reason that they get bullied all the time, is because they don't always recognize it. But sometimes people say things to other people that seem like bullying, and the person takes it in a really, really hurtful way, but it could be changed without having to stand up to the bully. So this whole video is about standing up to a bully, right? Well, I'd like to talk about two different circumstances of bullying and how one requires kind of standing up to the bully, but how the other circumstance requires some skill development. In fact, both cases use skills, but there are different skills that are used. So our first situation is we have a child that comes to another child. This was a situation that was shared with me. I have something called the TSG support group. It's on my website, teachingselfgovernment.com. It's also on the Teaching Self-Government app. But you can ask me questions, and I do live calls with groups once a week, and we record it and send it out and stuff like that. So there was a question that was asked just recently. A mother and father said that they had moved from one state to another state, and that their daughter was having a hard time with getting picked on, getting bullied, because the children didn't think very kindly about the state that this child had moved from. And one child said to this child of these parents, well, I'm having a sleepover, but you can't come to the sleepover because you moved from this other state. And so that made the person feel like, what do I do? So you're saying I can't be part of your group unless I'm from your state. You know, how do I handle that? And the parents were wondering how she should stand up to that type of thing or what she should do with that circumstance. I can't remember if they fully labeled it as bullying. I think they might have though, but it's not really. It's on that borderline because it's like somebody's just telling you a fact. Well, you know, my mom says you can't sleep over because you moved from this other state. That could be an attempt to gain some sort of manipulative control over another person, which is what real bullying does. Or it could just be stating a fact and being like, sorry, but it's not necessarily trying to hurt another person. I don't know the exact circumstances because the intent of the person saying it was not shared with me. I don't know, but I did tell them how to handle it. And this is whether it's real bullying or not. In a situation like that, what you want to do is you want to teach your child for sure about seeking to understand the other person and trying to critically analyze why the other person might be thinking the way that they are, and then prepare to have a discussion about that and about what you think too. There is a set of children's books that teach the 4 basic skills of self-government. This is one of the 4 basic skills, which is disagreeing appropriately. So if your child understands how to disagree appropriately, that's going to make it much easier for you to teach them how to stand up to a bully in a circumstance like what we're talking about now with the sleepover situation. So there are 7 steps to this skill. This is a seek to understand, then to be understood skill. I'm not going to go into all 7 steps, but I am going to just talk about those 2 steps. That at one point you seek to understand the other person's point of view, and then you share your point of view. So if you have a situation where someone has picked on you, been unkind, or even downright bullied you, so long as there isn't some sort of physical abuse that's happening, okay, or something that would be considered illegal, like stealing things from you or something like that, then you could go to this approach as a first approach. You could say to yourself or to your child, if you're having a discussion, why do you think that that person would be having a problem with you right now? Do you think that they've heard something from anybody else? In the case of moving from one state to another state, you'll have to listen to the whole explanation on the Teaching Self-Government Support Group. But I mentioned that the parents probably have a certain paradigm and the child probably overheard it, okay? And why people in certain communities would care at all about somebody moving from one state to another state. There's reasons that people care. It could change housing prices. It can change political dynamics in the community. It could change all kinds of things. People worry about that. Should they be targeting other individuals? Absolutely not. I don't agree with that. But to understand why they might think that way is useful, and explaining it to your child is useful too. Then, if you say, now, where are you at on this? What do you feel like that you need to understand about yourself, or that they maybe need to understand about you? Do you think that we could plan out your comments to them in a way that would help them care about and understand you, so that maybe they could have a change of heart on it? I instructed these parents to say something along these lines, and this is probably a slightly shorter version of it, but to say something along these lines that, you know, yesterday you told me that I couldn't come to a sleepover with you and all of the other children at your house because your parents didn't want me to come because I moved from another state. And I understand why they could be worried about me being from that other state, because they might think that I might introduce you to things that they don't trust from that place. But we actually moved from that other state because we want to be with people like you. We want to learn from you and be connected to you because we think the same as you about a lot of things. So maybe we could get to know each other a little bit better. Maybe my parents could even meet your parents, and then maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal anymore. Is it okay if we still try to be friends even if I can't come to a sleepover? Those types of conversations can fix problems, can fix bullying. If a bully feels understood, sometimes they stop bullying. Sometimes they're bullying just because they feel like nobody does understand them. Now, in this particular circumstance, probably it wasn't real bullying. So let's talk about the other circumstance. This is a circumstance that happened with my son. So my son was on a soccer team, and there was a boy on his team, one of the years that he played, who was aggressive. In fact, he was always talking in bullying ways to his team members. It was as if he was trying to put himself as like the tough guy on the team. And then he started even pushing the other people around that were on the team as well. He would push them down and get physical with them. My son knew that this was a problem. He went and talked to the coach about the problem. He tried to talk to the boy about the problem, and instead the boy became aggressive. So he talked to the coach, and then the coach said, okay, thanks for telling me, but nothing happened. The boy was not talked to. And finally my son said to me, Mom, what do I do? Because he's bullying all of us. And I said, okay, well, you know how Mom uses that skill called pre-teaching. This is a teaching self-government skill that I use in my parenting. And he said, yes. I said, okay, well, this is a great way for you to use pre-teaching, and then you might have to do a follow-up correction that could involve a negative consequence. If the coaches are not going to handle the situation, or if they've talked to the parents and the parents aren't going to handle the situation, then son, you have to handle your own situation. Do you want to handle it yourself? My son looked at me, he thought for a second, and then he said, yeah. I said, okay, you're bigger than him. You're way bigger, way stronger. So you know what? You can take him down. You can lay him flat. But I don't want you to just do that. That would teach him a lesson, but we need to make sure he gets the most learning and that you don't look like the next bully. So what you do is you go to the boy and you say, this is after, if he does something aggressive, he yells at someone, he pushes somebody, then you go to him and you say, the next time you push someone, I am going to lay you flat. And you just tell him that's the negative consequence. Then I looked at my son and I said, son, are you sure you're willing to lay the kid flat? And he said, yes. I said, okay. Then if he touches somebody, you or anybody else, you take him down. And he was like, okay, Mom. Because see, now he's been warned. It's okay to stand up against a bully who's being physical in a physical way if he has been warned. If he knows, listen, this is not okay, and if you keep doing it, I'm going to get physical with you. Then you're covered. You're fine. You have to stand up for yourself. It's justice, just basic justice. And by the way, the pre-teaching is super merciful and kind. Well, guess what? The bully immediately pushed another child on the team down. And so my son just took him down. I'm standing there on the sidelines knowing this could have happened to this day, and I watched the whole thing play out. They were just at a practice, and the child got up crying and mad, and he went to the coach and he yelled, and then he ran home. He never came back to practice. The poor child probably does want somebody to understand something about him. He probably wants some sort of feeling of worth or something. Either that or he's just been trained to be a bully, but he actually couldn't handle the environment where he couldn't be a bully, so he just weeded himself out and never came back, which is kind of sad, but at least my son knew, nope, I'm never going to let anybody hurt me or other people that I care about. If nobody's going to do it that should, like police or whatever, I guess I might have to do it myself. Men are built like that anyway. They're wired like that to protect. And so I gave my son the opportunity and it worked out well. I've mentioned so many skills in this video. Skills like disagreeing appropriately and pre-teaching. There's other skills like accepting consequences, accepting no answers, and being able to follow instructions as well as corrections. There's so many skills that a person needs to know how to do to truly be self-governing. If you've enjoyed this video, then you'll probably really like my next video, which is called The Not So Known Secret for Parenting Success. It will go into more details about the skills and principles of self-government so that you can teach them all to your child and have greater success and calmness at your house. So click on the link to The Not So Known Secret for Parenting Success now. I'll see you there.